Brown and Crouppen, uncovering the hidden history, pro wrestling patterns, and the stories behind the stories for unapologetic wrestling fanatics. He doesn't just watch wrestling, he decodes it. Here's Brody, Patrico, and Jeremy on the Lou Information Station.
We're talking Forbidden Door with the pod father himself, Conrad Thompson, where things stand leading up to Clash in Paris this week on Wrestling on the Spectrum.
Man, I mean, I think if you are not ready to enjoy Wrestling on the Spectrum, Brody, I think every single morning, every single afternoon, Saturdays, St. Louis wakes up when you speak, my friend, and they are listening to us talking about wrestling here on Wrestling on the Spectrum on the Lou Information Station. As always, we invite you guys, please, to call in if you are, an AEW aficionado right now. If you are somebody who is all about independent wrestling, if you're a big WWE fan, or if you just catch it on Monday nights, we want to hear from you. 855-282-8255 is how you can call in. You can also check us out on the YouTube channel as well. We'd love to see your responses on there. That's how you can get a hold of us. Usually, this is the time where I say joining us on the commentary desk is JC. JC out today, but filling in two other initials, DG. DG, thank you for joining us today on Wrestling on the Spectrum.
It is my distinct honor and pleasure to be here with you, fine gentlemen, especially on a pay-per-view weekend. At least that's what I'm told, right? It's a pay-per-view weekend?
It is a pay-per-view weekend. It's not a PLE weekend. It's a pay-per-view weekend.
Okay, we can say that.
We can say that. So Brody, I know we're going to dive into AEW here in a second. Okay. So I know that there are some very passionate opinions and feelings about AEW, but as we go through these matches here in a second, what I want you to do is try and take away personal feelings, personal opinions, and I want you to preview the match card for us, okay? Do you think that you can do that for us?
You just want me to run down the 9 matches we're going to talk about, and then we're going to do a deep dive on each one throughout the show?
No, we'll break it down. We'll break it down here in a second. I just know the last time we talked to AEW on Wrestling on the Spectrum, you were fired up, brother, and I love it. And I want that passion and energy when we break down all of these matches. Cool?
Yep,
awesome.
All good.
All right, so DG, before we get into this, you've known Brody for quite some time now. When I say Brody's wrestling knowledge, tell the people out there listening what that means to you.
Sure. I mean, first of all, I have a little bit of background in the wrestling space, mainly through podcasting. And
right. Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people that are passionate about wrestling and passionate about WWE or AEW or both or historical or what have you. And his knowledge is better than all of them, right? It's so the studio that we're sitting in right now is the J. Randolph Jr. studio. And I used to say all the time, one of the things people didn't know, I don't think, about Jay is that he had this unbelievable memory and recollection of golf events where he could sit there and go back years and years with winners of U.S. Opens and Masters, but then start describing different holes at different courses, and I would just be blown away. Brody is that times 5 with wrestling or local St. Louis high school sports. So
it's really any sports, yeah.
He's not only passionate about it, he's not only knowledgeable about it, right? But he has this uncanny ability to remember so many things that happened in the sport that he is able to give context that other people can't. And what I enjoy about talking with Brody is he sees wrestling different than you or I.
Absolutely. And that is what fascinates me as well, because anybody can be a fan, and he is definitely a fan. But Brody, would you say that you are more than a wrestling fan? Like, does wrestling mean something to you?
Yeah, it does. It means to me like baseball, football, basketball, hockey, and soccer. It's right there. It's like I treat it like a professional sport. I present wrestling like a sport because I legitimately believe it's a sport, and all of our listeners view wrestling as a sport. At least most of them should. And if you treat it like a professional sport, it's a lot more enjoyable as a fan. I'm telling you, it's a lot more enjoyable. You will emotionally invest in the storylines if you treat professional wrestling like a sport, and if you present wrestling like a sport, you will get your audience to invest in it a lot more. I'm telling you what I know.
The whole
absolutely.
thing is about taking a break from reality, right?
Yeah.
Which is the same thing that we do when we watch a movie. It is the same thing we do when we go watch a performance, right? And so Conrad, who we're going to talk to here in a little bit, he always says, and he said it with you guys a few weeks ago, but I love the way he always puts this. Folks, Superman ain't flying around out there.
Yep, you're right.
So why is it that we can go to a movie and understand that Superman is a performance, but it's a darn good show?
Yeah.
And this is the same exact thing happening right in front of your eyes.
I remember when all the Marvel movies were like, people were like freaking out about the Marvel movies. And I remember I had said, what is the difference between this and professional wrestling? I'll tell you, the professional wrestlers don't have ropes attached to them, don't have CGI screens behind them. They're taking the bumps. They're getting physical. Whereas all the Hollywood actors and stuff, everything is done safely and strapped in and all these padding and everything. And nobody says boo about that. But then it comes to wrestling and it's, oh, that's all fake. Get out of here. Just enjoy it like you enjoy any type of sitcom, any type of drama that is on television. There is something for everybody, and especially right now, and we had talked about this before the show, and there is almost too much wrestling right now, correct,
Yeah,
Brody?
Absolutely. There's way too much wrestling. There's so much wrestling on all levels, independent wrestling, and then you go up and there's, AEW and WWE, New Japan Pro Wrestling, CMLL, AAA, now owned by WWE, TNA. So much wrestling to watch. It's almost hard to keep up with it all, but there's a lot for that audience to consume, and boy, they buy into all of it. It is something. I mean, it really is. People love it, and they can't. I mean, what is WWE's 2 shows on a week? They got AAA on. I mean, it's
three essentially with
three. With NXT, yeah,
Yep.
3, and then they've got so 3 essentially, and then AEW's got 2, even though only everybody watches only one of them, but still they've got 2. And I mean everything. I mean, it's unbelievable how much wrestling content there is out there, and even more on YouTube. WWE Vault. They've got all these great matches on YouTube. Back in the day, I had to watch a WWE Network to actually get my old stuff. Now you can just go to WWE Vault on YouTube and you can watch. So it's great.
Here's my question for you. And just let the people know, what year were you born?
2002.
And that WrestleMania in 2002, who was the champion?
It was Chris Jericho, Triple H, main event. Triple H beat Jericho for the title in the main event. That was Rock Hogan. That was in Toronto. One of the better WrestleManias. Not as good as 17, but it was a very, very plentiful WrestleMania. A lot of great memories there. Hogan and Rock, of course, Rock beat Hogan. Hogan turned babyface. Yep, 2002, the year TNA was founded, the year the first Ring of Honor show was, all in 2002.
What about 10 years earlier?
I don't remember what I had for breakfast this morning.
Yeah, 10 years earlier was 1992, and boy, a lot happened that year. Ric Flair and WWE basically sums that year up. Oh, boy. That was something. Of course, Ultimate Warrior returned at WrestleMania that year.
Was that the year that they had the co-main events at WrestleMania?
Yes, Sid and Hogan and Flair and Savage at WrestleMania.
Yeah, everybody was like, this is going to be Flair Hogan. This is going to be the main event. This is going to be great. This is going to be awesome. And then all of a sudden, it went like this. And everybody's like, oh, main event. I remember that clip with Gene Okerlund making that announcement is so famous because he makes that announcement, and collectively at home, everybody went, what?
What?
Boy. See, you mentioned Mean Gene Okerlund, and all I think about is, boy, there's a podcast we missed.
Big time.
That would have been
him and Bobby Heenan.
unbelievable.
Wouldn't that be great? Just him and Bobby
Can you
down.
imagine? Can you imagine Dusty Rhodes podcast?
Listen,
baby.
first off, a Dusty Rhodes podcast I could probably listen to in very small increments because I think
Yeah,
they would
you
be
don't
12-hour
think you
episodes.
could listen. You don't think you could listen to the man talk about being the son of a plumber?
Okay, first off,
That's actually a pretty good
that's
Dusty
pretty dang
impersonation.
good.
Thank you.
That's pretty dang good. Okay. Second, here is the thing that I want to know the most. Okay. When it comes to Mean Gene Okerlund, when it comes to Bobby the Brain Heenan, do you think those characters could have translated well into the podcast world? Or do you think that they were so good in their element that take them out of it and do something different, it would throw them off? Or do you think they would be able to just seamlessly go right into it?
The true answer is it just depends on the state of where they were right then in wrestling, right?
Yeah,
Was he still, because again, you would assume that he would have left.
Yes.
Right. So
Yes.
all of that goes out the window.
Yes, absolutely. I know we're getting Conrad on the phone here in a second, but before we go to him, I do want to ask you, Brody, because this is a question that I have, and this is a legit question. What in the hell does Forbidden Door mean? Because now I'm probably wrong here, okay, but let me guess. Because from what I remember, Forbidden Door meant basically if there was a WCW wrestler, he could never wrestle in WWE because that would be him, quote unquote, opening the quote unquote forbidden door.
Right.
So now what does that mean? Because there's an AEW pay-per-view that is called Forbidden Door. So what are we talking about now?
They are partnering with New Japan Pro Wrestling and CMLL, and basically they are they're doing a co-op pay-per-view. We're going to feature some of our more prominent stars like Tanahashi on this show, Zack Sabre Jr. They got a lot of those guys. And we're going to preview it down the card, of course. Here comes the introduction of, he hosts numerous podcasts, My World with Jeff Jarrett. He's got Grilling JR. He's got What Happened When with Tony Schiavone, 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff, Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard or JBL, depending on what you're listening to. And, of course, he has all those podcasts. He does so much more on adfreeshows.com. If you're a professional wrestling fan and you're not subscribed to adfreeshows.com, there is a lot of stuff on there. Of course, from Huntsville, Alabama, it is the podfather himself, Conrad Thompson. How are we, bud?
Man, I'm good. Thank you guys for having me. What an introduction. Wow. I hope I can live up to that.
Oh, you will. Definitely will.
I just call him Conrad.
Hey, Conrad, before we dive into things, I do have to tell you a really funny story. So you joined us a couple weeks ago on the show. I tweeted out a couple different things of clips of you on the show. And I had a buddy who is in the local wrestling scene here give me a call, and he said, hey, did you have Conrad Thompson on the show? And I said, oh, yeah, we talked to him. It was great. And he responded back to me with, the Conrad Thompson? And I said, whoa, my man's got a the title in front of him. Look at you, man.
Wow, how about that? I like that. I
love it too. Thank you for joining us today. We are diving into Forbidden Door. I just got done asking Brody. I always thought Forbidden Door was like the term of like wrestlers not being allowed to then go wrestle for different promotions. But now it looks like that Forbidden Door has been kicked wide open, especially with this AEW pay-per-view that we've got this weekend.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that was certainly a popular term in 2019 and 2020. For years and years, it was WWE and no one else. And of course, TNA has sort of become a partner unofficially with WWE, and now we know AAA is. So I agree, it does feel like it's probably a dated term, but I do like the idea of keeping the brand for an international pay-per-view. I as a big-time wrestling fan, appreciate that there's an opportunity for smaller promotions like Stardom to be featured. So the idea that you not only have a New Japan presence, but a CMLL presence, and now a Stardom presence, I think it's still great for international wrestling fans.
Conrad, one of the things we were talking about before the show is I was doing some research trying to find out how many pay-per-view buys AEW will do on a show like tomorrow. And the number that I found was that their typical pay-per-views do maybe 100,000 to 125,000. Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, I mean, if I was to guess, I would guess that this would be around 110,000. I mean, I'm not a betting man, but I would say that would be like the over-under probably is around 110,000. I think that they exceeded that by a great deal for All In. The numbers I heard on that were north of 150. But, yeah, I do think you're close. I think 90 is probably a basement. I think, 110 to 125 is probably average. And it does feel like, there's usually never as much appetite for the international pay-per-view, but that even goes back to the WCW days. I think most of your revenue comes from American buys. And Dave, you're familiar with this, I'm sure. Your international pay-per-views like on Fight or what have you back in the day, they're going to be much more affordable because it's based on, whatever the economics of that particular country are. So this market may have a $50 pay-per-view price, but somewhere in a different part of the world, it might be as cheap as $10. But I still do believe that, this is going to do a profitable number. It's already the fourth largest non-WWE gate in history. So it's not like they'll lose money, but I just don't think that the domestic fans are interested in this show. And I think that's evidenced with the ratings this week. I think they had 565,000 viewers this week on a go-home show. So that is a down number for them. And I think the pay-per-view has to be down from what they did in July. But I think the quality of the show will still be well received.
Yeah. So I was bringing that up, and Tony was the one I said, if I told you this is going to sell maybe $6 million in pay-per-views, does it change your perspective on what they're doing? I mean, think about what Conrad just said. On a down week, when you would expect the numbers to be higher, there were still, Brody, 565,000 people who watched AEW. There are not 565,000 people watching hardly anything on television these days.
I mean, that's true. That's true. But Brody, now tell me, like, you've watched both. You watch both WWE and AEW. From a wrestling standpoint, AEW is doing something correct, right?
Yeah, they're doing something correct. I think I'll give AEW this. They feature new wrestlers people in the United States haven't seen a lot of before, and I think that's a big thing. Like, they'll hype up a big debut, or, you know, that's what they do good on. They do good with the debuts. They really, really do. You know, wrestlers I haven't, or they've heard about, but now they get to see him in the United States for the first time. I think they did it with Ospreay. Look how big of a star he's become, you know, because a lot of the, you know, American audience hadn't seen a lot of these guys before, so they've done a good job. But, you know, there's just a lot of things, but they're doing something right. And I think for the, you know, for the small segment that like that indie-rific garbage deathmatch stuff, they cater to that. If you like violence and you like blood and gore, yeah, AEW is going to cater to that. They really, really do. There are people that legitimately like it. People like ECW. So there are people that like it. They definitely get that audience to watch their show every week. And it's a lot larger of an audience than people think, because they sell the numbers that you're giving me. You're right. It's a lot larger of an audience than people think. Just not my preferred style of wrestling. I don't think it's a widespread appeal style, but it's good, and it's what AEW has used as its differentiator.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's start looking at the card, and especially since we have Conrad on here, I'm interested to get his take as well. Conrad, the first match we're going to talk about is a match that Brody said involves somebody that might have the worst name change in professional wrestling. Cope and Christian Cage versus Kip Sabian and Luchasaurus. What are your thoughts on Cope and Christian Cage back together again?
Well, I'm excited about that. You know, I think we're all taking a look at next month, and we know that they're going to be in Toronto for All Out. We know that Cope is on the cover and the poster of all the marketing there. And it's been long rumored that we're going to get FTR versus, quote unquote, Edge and Christian. And that does feel like a dream match, a generational dream match.
Sure does.
What better place to do it than in Toronto? So I expect that we're going to get back to our winning ways with Adam Copeland and Christian Cage this weekend.
Definitely. Brody, your thoughts?
Yes. Adam Copeland, for those who don't know, he was a wrestler in WWE with the name Edge. I'm assuming everybody knows that, but just to make sure, Edge is Cope. And Christian Cage was obviously Christian. And yes, I believe they will be victorious. They will get the revenge on Kip Sabian and Luchasaurus, and they'll get their hands on Nick Wayne later down the line. But they will absolutely win this match, and they will be pushed in the road right to the next pay-per-view in Canada next month. I'm looking forward to seeing this match. I like those two guys.
Taz would say, the rated I superstar.
I love Taz on commentary. He's the second best commentator in that company.
Well, I will tell you this.
Besides JR.
I had sort of tuned out to AEW for a while because I was getting that feeling of, you know, oh, wow, I'm seeing the same exact thing pretty much every week. And I told you guys that I tuned in and I was like, boy, a lot is similar. But I will tell you, one of the things that I like is the opportunity to do things like this, because to bring Cope and Christian Cage together again is something I think wrestling fans as a whole love, right? And so that opportunity isn't going to happen, or wasn't, in WWE. So the fact that it can happen in AEW, I think that's pretty cool.
I think it's definitely cool. I think it's great, and I think it's great to give the folks that may be that WWE fan like myself, who grew up on, you know, the Attitude Era, and I hear, oh, that there's the AEW pay-per-view, and I go, oh, who's wrestling? If you tell me Edge and Christian are together, right, that would make me go, oh, I'm going to tune into this. I'm definitely going to tune into this. So moving down the card here, up next, we've got, I like to call Kyle Fletcher Ospreay Light. I mean, because I feel like he does a lot of similar things to Ospreay as far as the style of wrestling is concerned. But the AEW TNT Championship is on the line. Brody, thoughts on this match here?
Yes, I'll talk about this. So Kyle Fletcher versus...
I'm sorry, Tony. Can you tell us who Mr. Fletcher is wrestling?
Nope,
here?
that's why I passed it to Brody.
I'm sorry, I think you failed to mention the opponent.
Hiromu Takahashi.
I didn't want to curse on the radio. I didn't want to curse on the radio.
Bless you.
Hiromu Takahashi. He's a well-known wrestler in Japan. Let me say this about Kyle Fletcher. His physique, he looks a lot better. He's putting the work in and wanting to be a star, and I'm looking forward to the day that Kyle Fletcher will end up in WWE. It will be exciting. This is a guy who's telling the world, I want to be in WWE. You can tell by his physique change. He's been in the Don Callis family, which is just another stable in AEW, but it is what I mean. In all seriousness, I mean,
you got to give Don Callis his props,
I like
though.
Don Callis.
He's so good.
Oh, he's great. He's great. It's just that whole stable, though, is so distorted, and there's just so many stables on that show. But, Conrad, what are your thoughts on this match and really Kyle Fletcher's physique change this year and really how he's improved in the ring?
Yeah, Kyle Fletcher's coming into his own. I do think some of this is just the maturation. I think we forget oftentimes how young some of these guys are. And, you know, he lost his baby fat. You take a look at a young Shawn Michaels when he's a part of the tag team, the Rockers. And then you see him when he's on his Intercontinental run and the physique changes even from his world title run. So I think some of that is just maturing. And I think Kyle Fletcher is going to be in AEW for the long haul. I heard you say, hey, you hope to see him in WWE. I don't know how likely that is. Kyle Fletcher, I think, has found a home, a long-term home with AEW, and I think he's going to be one of those building blocks. You take a look and you see some of the people who've been moving up the ranks in recent years in AEW, and I think, you know, we're 2 or 3 years away from Kyle Fletcher being in the conversation of main eventing an all-out or an all-in and having those world title shots. Takahashi is about an inch taller than Rey Mysterio. And he is trying. He is trying to do his very best to put on a big showing against Kyle Fletcher. I think this is the sleeper match of the night.
Nice. You say Kyle Fletcher. You think he's in AEW for the long haul. What makes you think that? Like, what is the thing that separates him staying versus going to WWE?
Well, respectfully, you know, Tony Khan has already invested a lot into Kyle Fletcher. I'm saying, think about where he was just a few years ago. He was a part of a tag team, but I think by and large, most people assumed that he was brought in as just a quote unquote pal of Will Ospreay. But he's broken out and had an opportunity to show what he can do at a time when there's a lot of other people who just don't get an opportunity to even have screen time. They wind up spending most of their Wednesday in catering through no fault of their own. But clearly, we're seeing that Will Ospreay is a high priority for Tony Khan. We know Kyle Fletcher is a personal friend of Will Ospreay. They've been featuring him in a really, really strong way. I think if and when his contract comes due, Tony Khan's going to open up the checkbook in a big way. And I think there's a lot of trust and appreciation about the way Kyle Fletcher's been featured. I mean, let's be real. If Kyle Fletcher was in NXT, would he get as much screen time as he does in AEW? And I think that's how you build stars. I think a lot of times wrestling fans always want new, but when they get new, they don't want to allow it to have the patience to really grow and mature. Kyle Fletcher's been given that opportunity. I think he's here for the long haul.
Let's hit on the 2 women's matches before we have to take a break. But you've got AEW TBS Championship going on in a 4-way, and then the AEW Women's World Championship with Toni Storm and Athena. Toni Storm is been pretty red hot for AEW.
She's been incredibly hot. I would argue she's the hottest character in all of wrestling, certainly on the AEW side of things. I think her character work is second to none. But what's great is I think she's so established and she's so made, to use an old wrestling phrase, she doesn't need a belt. I think it's time for Athena. I think she's got a lot of momentum coming out of All In. My concern is if you don't pull the trigger on Athena now, when will you? I hope they don't miss this moment in time. This could be a star-making night for Athena, and it wouldn't hurt Toni Storm a bit. So I hope in the efforts to try to continue to build this division and build some new legends and build some new main event stars, Athena gets her hand raised in this one.
Love it. Hey, Brody, what's your thoughts on Mercedes having, I think, 433 belts now?
Who cares? Mercedes Moné is going to be in another meaningless fatal 4-way. She's going to retain the AEW TBS Championship. And when we get back from the break, we're going to get back from the break. Conrad will still be with us, and we are going to have the main event matches and Forbidden Doors still left to preview. So don't tune out. Stay tuned in as we are going to talk about the main event matches of Forbidden Door with Conrad Thompson.
For sure. Make sure you're calling in 855-282-8255. This is Wrestling on the Spectrum, brought to you by Brown and Crouppen, 222-2222 on the Lou Information Station, live and on demand at louinfo.com.
The Lou Information Station, a whole new way to enjoy content created just for those of us in the St. Louis area. It's a whole new way to advertise and promote your business. Reach out and find out just how different we are. If you're tired of one-sided advertising offerings or your traditional media route trying to shove digital marketing down your throat, visit louinfo.com and click on advertising. Or email partnerships@louinfo.com for more information.
Lunchtime just got a whole lot better at Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill. From mouth-watering wraps to loaded quesadillas to bold, flavor-packed sandwiches, Hot Shots has something fresh every single day, along with your favorite wings, burgers, and pizza that you know and love. And don't sleep on those Hot Shots tacos. Plus, if you gotta be in and out quick for lunch, Hot Shots has you covered every day starting at 11 a.m. Find your nearest Hot Shots Sports Bar and Grill now at hotshotsnet.com. That's hotshotsnet.com.
Is your brand stuck on the sidelines? Tired of feeling like your marketing budget is just warming the bench? Well, then it's time to get in the game with Eyesight Media. We don't just put your brand near the action, we put you in the action. Imagine this, your company front and center, showcased in NCAA and pro stadiums and arenas nationwide. If you're ready to elevate your brand to MVP status, don't miss this shot. Visit eyesightmediagroup.com today to apply for an in-arena partnership. That's eyesightmediagroup.com.
All aboard!
There's a new way to travel, and it's one of the oldest forms of transportation. Travel by train. Yes, consider traveling around the United States on Amtrak. Traveling by train is a lot less of a headache than taking a plane, and you'd be surprised how many places you can go on an Amtrak. And there's no passports or IDs needed. Find out how to get where you're going as soon as tomorrow by train. Call the Amtrak Travel Hotline right now. We'll book your trip and email your tickets within minutes. Skip the drive to the airport and skip the lines. Call right now to book your Amtrak reservations. We service most of the United States.
All aboard!
Do something new. Travel by Amtrak today.
800-428-9517. 800-428-9517. 800-428-9517. That's 800-428-9517.
You've been strong for everyone else, but let me ask you, who is strong for you? I am Jennifer Bardot, radio personality, author, and publisher, and the founder of Grit Association, which stands for Growth, Resilience, Intention, and Tenacity. What is grit? Grit is a movement, a sisterhood, a space where ambitious women grow, lead, and thrive. This isn't just leadership. This is transformation. Grit is your circle of fire, where comfort zones get shattered, where stories become power, and the next level becomes your new normal. From our 7 international anthologies that elevate women's voices to my radio show, Elevate and Lead, on the Lou Information Station, everything we do is about your rising, your voice, your power, your people. Are you ready? Join Grit. For more information, visit mygritcommunity.com. That's mygritcommunity.com.
Hey everyone, Cam Jansen here to tell you about the experts at Fast Signs in Earth City. Fast Signs can handle any and all of your business visibility needs, from traditional signs and graphics to digital to core graphics and anything in between. Fast Signs in Earth City has you covered. The station uses them, the Blues use them, and you will love the work they do. Call 314-344-4400 for your custom signage needs today. That's Fast Signs in Earth City. 314-344-4400.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Now back to more of Wrestling on the Spectrum with Brody the Brain Herman, JC and Patrico on the Lou Information Station. Streaming 24/7 at louinfo.com.
Welcome back to Wrestling on the Spectrum here on the Lou Information Station, brought to you by Brown and Crouppen, online, getbc.com. Again, if you'd like to call in, 855-282-8255. Also, you can join us live on the YouTube chat room. You can just go to louinfo.com. You click watch live.
Everybody wait to Cam Jansen.
Hey,
Cam
Jansen. I want to, you know what? I think we do need to get Cam Jansen involved in the local wrestling scene, by the way. I heard you guys talking about that, and I think that definitely needs to happen because I don't necessarily know if Cam would be willing to take any quote unquote bumps, but I would love to see him get body slammed.
Yes.
I just would love to see it. I'm not saying that because I have any desire or want for Cam Jansen to get body slammed, but if he's in a ring, I would like to see him get body slammed. I definitely would. Before the break, we were breaking down AEW's Forbidden Door. I want to continue that. Joined on the phone by the Podfather himself, Mr. Conrad Thompson. Brody, what match do you want to talk about next? I think we were talking off the break. The tag team match is pretty important,
okay,
right?
Yes, we're talking about that. AEW World Tag Team Championships will be the Hurt Syndicate versus FTR versus Brodito, and of course, FTR will likely win this match. I don't know why it's a three-way. I would have much rather had it be the Hurt Syndicate and FTR. Don't like the way they inserted Brodito in this match. That's for Bandito and Brody King, for those who don't know. Don't like the fact that it's a triple threat and that there's an out. I guess there's an out because FTR can pin Brodito and they don't pin the Hurt Syndicate, and then they're going to do that storyline, and then they're going to have FTR and the Hurt Syndicate mix it back up again. But I don't really like that it's a three-way match. FTR will absolutely win this match and face Edge and Christian at the next pay-per-view. What are your thoughts, Conrad?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think it makes sense that FTR would walk away with the titles, and hopefully we get to see them against Edge and Christian next month in Toronto. But I don't hate the idea that they've made it a three-way, because what would we do next with the Hurt Syndicate? At least this way, we know that we can have a series of rematches, or we could have FTR. I mean, it just feels like it gives the Hurt Syndicate something to do on the other side of this. You know, I imagine this would lead to TV matches with Brodito. And sign me up. Hurt Syndicate versus Brodito feels like a fun match to me.
Mm-hmm.
Does.
I absolutely agree. Moving down the card, I know that we wanted to quickly touch on the Zack Sabre Jr. and Nigel McGuinness match there for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
Mm-hmm.
Brody, thoughts on this?
Yes. Nigel McGuinness. I liked Nigel McGuinness back in the day. He was one of my favorites when I was first watching Ring of Honor. We hadn't seen him in the ring for a long time due to some injuries. He's great on the mic. And, you know, he's wrestled on occasion for AEW every once in a while. He wrestled Bryan Danielson last year, put over Bryan Danielson like $1 million. I like Nigel McGuinness here as a veteran. I think he will put over Zack Sabre Jr. Zack Sabre Jr. will absolutely win this match. And Zack Sabre Jr. is kind of one of those indie darlings that's kind of, you know, AEW's had on for a few times. Hasn't really gained a lot of steam, a lot of traction. It's fine. I think it's a nice match to have on the card for that crowd that reads dirt sheets and, you know, knows the indie darlings out there of Zack Sabre Jr. And I like Nigel McGuinness. Love seeing Nigel back in the ring. What are your thoughts, Conrad? Love seeing Nigel.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Nigel. Once upon a time, we thought his wrestling career was over, at least from an in-ring perspective. Now the idea that he gets a title shot, I think, is a great story. I hope that we have almost some Rocky-esque hype videos in advance of it the day of the show, or maybe even on Collision tonight. It just feels like that makes a lot of sense in trying to build Nigel. I do take issue with Zack Sabre Jr. being considered an indie guy. He's the freaking New Japan World Champion. What else can he do? I think this is his highest and best use. But I do agree he's going to win. It's a nice story for Nigel, but it is a big feather in the cap for a guy like Zack Sabre Jr. to get a win over Nigel.
Absolutely. Now, I will tell you, I am not the biggest AEW fan. I think I've made that clear on this show. I am more, sometimes there is a wrestling overload and my attention span kind of falls flat when it comes to AEW. But one match that I've been seeing people talk about that they're saying that they're very excited for is Okada and Strickland. Brody, why are people so excited about this match, and why me as a casual wrestling fan looking into Forbidden Door, why would this be a match that would sell me on the pay-per-view?
Because people are excited to see Okada lose the belt so badly. It's been dreadful. I mean, Kazuchika Okada has been one of the worst investments for Tony Khan. He's very lazy in the ring. He's not the Okada of old. He's not the Okada New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's very lazy, and I hope Strickland beats him, and I think he will beat him. I think this will be a great crowning moment for Swerve Strickland. I think they can finally get the belt off of Okada. Okada can put over somebody that needs to be elevated. And I think Strickland can get him right back in the world title picture at one of these points. Great way to get the momentum back in Swerve Strickland's corner. And just to finally get the belt off of Okada. Thank goodness. Can't wait for that.
Conrad, do you have the same thoughts? Is it time to get that belt off of Okada?
Not only is it not time to get the belt off of him, I would go so far as to damn near guarantee a victory for Okada here.
Whoa!
The innuendo is that Swerve Strickland has had an injury. He's been nursing for a while. I expect that in the coming weeks, he's going to go have that surgery, whatever it may be. That's my rumor and innuendo report. But Okada, when he's motivated and given the opportunity, and I think that is a big piece of it, he is the best wrestler in the world. And I think he's been given very few chances to show that in AEW just because TV time is so limited.
Mm-hmm.
When people really fell in love with his New Japan work, he could effectively have 1 or 2 matches a month and go 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes. That's not really the way American television wrestling works, but I do think that these guys are going to have really, really high expectations. 2 of the best drop kicks in all of wrestling. I can't wait to see this one. I hope that Swerve is okay. Depending on how bad that injury is, of course, it could terribly affect the match quality.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's good to go, man, this is going to be one for the ages.
Strickland's injury makes me change my prediction. Then they will keep the belt on Okada. If that is true. No, I didn't know that he had an injury because I
for
guess
sure.
Conrad inserting his rumor innuendo, that is important. That'll change it. Then Okada will unfortunately keep the belt, and we will have to continue witnessing this. Hopefully more Okada can do more. I hope to see more out of him because we haven't seen more out of him yet. It's just been lazy, normal, slow-paced Okada stuff, and we need to see more Okada stuff back in the old New Japan days.
Mm-hmm.
Can't wait for that.
Hey, Conrad, I have a question before we get into, these last 2 matches on this card. Somebody on the YouTube channel, and of course you guys can tune in, luinfo.com. They're asking, like, what was your moment where you got into wrestling? What was the moment that you went, okay, this is more than just something I like. I love this.
It's a little Hulkamaniac.
Yeah, absolutely. Hulkamania, man. It was running wild in the summer of '88. We lived in South Alabama, and we came to visit my grandfather in Guntersville, Alabama, where I now live. And there was a VHS store in town that was every parent's babysitter. So you go down there and you take your kid and you say, pick out a title. And they had a double tape VHS of WrestleMania 4. And my parents thought, wow, 2 wrestling tapes instead of 1. This will keep his little butt occupied. So they threw it in the machine, and I plopped down, and I was blown away when I saw Hulk Hogan. At the time, I was a G.I. Joe and He-Man guy. And Hulk Hogan and He-Man, boy, what a striking resemblance.
Yep.
This was my real life this was my real life superhero, my come to life comic book. So I was hooked. That was summer of 1988.
Awesome. That's great. And I think that your story is very similar to a lot of people's story across the country, because very similar to you, I remember going to Blockbuster Video and my dad saying, pick out a video. And I went, oh, I'm definitely going to get this tape that's got Shawn Michaels Razor Ramon ladder match, of course. And I just remember cycling through all of them. And at some point it clicked to me like, hey, you do realize that you more than like this. Like, you really love this. And I think a lot of people had that story, and it's seeing those real life superheroes do things that you couldn't imagine being done in real life.
Amen, man.
Yep,
God
definitely.
bless the Hulkster.
Love it. Love it. When you guys were renting those videos, how many of them had lights out steel cage matches?
Okay. Somebody please explain.
Oh, here we go. Let's talk about this.
Conrad, buckle in, because Brody's going.
Oh, here we go. It's going to be Will Ospreay, Darby Allin, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the Golden Lovers of Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega versus the Young Bucks, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli, and Gabe Kidd. Oh, God. Okay.
You just ran out of breath just saying who's in the damn match.
Another 5-on-5. Just terrible use of Ospreay. I know he's nursing an injury. I hope they win this match. The baby faces prevail and win this match. Tanahashi, one of the biggest stars in all of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Lights out steel cage match. Usually lights out in AEW means unsanctioned, but how can it be unsanctioned if they have a steel cage match? That makes no sense. No, I legitimately think Moxley is going to do his creative. He's actually going to do something where it could be a Bray Wyatt tribute. They could have the lights actually out or something. Jon Moxley's creative is going to mess this match up somehow. I don't know how, but somehow it's going to mess up this match. It's going to be a train wreck, and we are all going to endure another Jon Moxley terrible creative disaster that we are all going to have to endure. And I just feel bad that we have great professional wrestlers like Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega and Tanahashi and Darby Allin being drug into this Death Rider mess. What are your thoughts on this, Conrad? Oh, my goodness me. Way too many wrestlers in this one.
Man, I can't wait. This is the match I'm looking forward to seeing the most. It's one of the most innovative, tremendous matches that Tony Khan has embraced. You go back and you take a look at Blood and Guts, and you see Anarchy in the Arena. The crowd, the vibe in the crowd and in the arena, when you're there to see this in person, I'll tell you this, it sold sponsorships for AEW the last time they saw it.
Wow.
It is an unbelievable experience. It's a vibe like nothing else. If they keep the music going, I can't imagine how hot this crowd is going to be. I mean, this show is going to be sold out, hanging from the rafters. The UK is a wrestling-starved nation, and the idea that you're going to have all of this chaos happening at the exact same time. And here's a spoiler. They're not staying in the cage. there's almost 0% chance they're staying in a cage.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't book all these high-flying artists, all these daredevils, and throw them into a cage match unless you were also planning to do a bunch of stunts. Kenny Omega's been nursing an injury. We know he's talked about it takes weeks for him to get out of bed after a big match. It makes sense that they would put him in a multi-man. Tanahashi's already wrestled 93 matches this year, and he's getting up there in age. He's got, I mean, you want to talk about a battered body. That's what that dude's toting around. I'm glad that he's got a little support for a multi-man match. And the same with Will Ospreay. I mean, this is probably going to be his last match before he goes off and has perhaps career-changing neck surgery. I think it makes sense to throw all of those guys and give them some gimmicks so the expectations are a little different. If we're brawling and we're bleeding, we're maybe not getting dropped on our heads. I hope that nobody gets seriously hurt, but I know that in the arena, this will be the match that people leave the arena talking about and thinking about for years to come.
Oh, they absolutely will be talking about Moxley's creative disaster. I have no doubt about it.
Come on. Why? Hey, let's just be embracing. We're gonna go. We're opening our minds and we're allowing this to happen. And
remember that conversation we had at the beginning? We have to let go a little.
What if this ends up, Brody, your question, okay? What if this ends up being, like you said, a mess, but an incredibly entertaining mess where it is hard to, again, we continuously say on this show, we said it at the very beginning, that you have to kind of suspend disbelief and go, this is just for entertainment. I have a feeling you've got people with names that are strong enough, abilities that are strong enough, and personality galore throughout this whole entire match that really can show, at least entertain.
Okay, in the arena it will entertain. In the arena it will entertain for everybody at home. As our old friend Jerry Jarrett would say, if you confuse them, you'll lose them. So that's kind of the idea. And let's dive into our main event here. It will be Adam Page versus MJF, the AEW World Heavyweight Championship on the line. And of course, another stipulation. Thank gosh this is in. Adam Page will lose the title via count out or disqualification. If he's disqualified or counted out, he will lose the title. So finally, a match with rules on this show. AEW finally has a match with rules on this show. I'm looking forward to this match. I hope they get the belt off of Adam Page as quickly as possible. Please end this title reign and get this on MJF. So give me some MJF and Bobby Lashley. I'm ready for that. I cannot wait. MVP hinted it on television. Do something more with that Hurt Syndicate breakup storyline. They will not do that, though, and that's why my prediction will be they will unfortunately keep the belt on Hangman Adam Page, and we will have more of this dreadful title reign that we just, thank gosh, hopefully will end. Hopefully they can build up a monster heel maybe to take the belt off of Page, but oh gosh, just put the belt on MJF. Let's just get this MJF and Bobby Lashley and Hurt Syndicate thing keep going. I'm looking forward to this.
Conrad, do you think this was long-term story playing with the whole MJF in, working with MVP and Bobby Lashley, and then it seemed like, okay, out the group, ousted, and now put into the main title picture? Do you agree that this is long-term storytelling in AEW, which unfortunately we don't see a whole lot of that right now? Do you think this is for the long term?
I think I totally disagree. I think AEW's had a lot of long-term storytelling. Look how long the Death Riders angle
Well, you're
was.
right. Okay, yeah, you're right.
Look how successful the All-In and the Hangman story was. Like that Hangman piece, I think, is arguably their most redeeming story and the one I would point to. I do think it's funny that Brody's fired up saying, when will this reign end? Hell, it started July 12th. What are we talking about?
Yeah, we're just over a month.
But I will say this, 0.0 chance that they're going from MJF to the Hurt Syndicate. If I were a betting man, I think that storyline is finished and it's over and it's done. I could be wrong, but I just don't think that's where they're heading with it. And this, to me, is the biggest head scratcher. I heard Brody saying, hey, finally an AEW match with rules, but I'm having trouble with, hey, if he can lose the belt on a DQ, why wouldn't MJF just simply have someone come out and punch him in the face and now he's the world champion? That's the biggest part I have trouble wrapping my head around.
That is true.
Yeah, there's got to be some angle that obviously is coming out of that.
But then again, like Brody, you just said, good old Double J said, if you confuse them, you lose them. Like, we're already confused going into this match, so it's tough to really get invested.
But the problem is that every match is no disqualification, no count out. So finally, when the count out and disqualification actually means something in a match, it's more redeeming, because every match it's always no disqualification, no count out. It's lazy booking. Every match on AEW pretty much involves no disqualification, no count out.
Wait, hang on, Sue. Brody, just so I understand, you'd like a bunch of non-finishes? You want more countouts? You want more DQs? I just want to make sure I got your argument down pat here. You want more DQs?
Yeah, it's more redeeming every once in a while to have a disqualification. Yeah, I just feel like it's a nice element in wrestling to advance it. Not on a pay-per-view, on TV.
But no, you just said all the matches on this show are no DQ or new countout. You want non-finishes on a pay-per-view?
I mean, not on a pay-per-view, but on television, a lot of their matches have no rules. I don't mind it on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, I can't argue that. Listen, but I would also say that I think if you lived and suffered through the end of WCW, boy, you grew tired of all those DQs and run-ins and constant interference. I appreciate when you try to give us clean finishes. Now, I'll agree to your point. How clean is it if you're saying no DQ and no count-out? But still, I would like there to be a finish rather than literally, I paid $50 and, oh, never mind, it's a draw. Man, that feels like, as JR used to say, kissing your sister. But the creative in this main event, the belt can change hands on a DQ. Like, logically, hey, I'll just have my best friend come tag me in the groin, and bam, I'm the world champion. Easy peasy.
I mean, I don't want the belt to change hands on a disqualification or a count out. I think it should always be that the title cannot change hands on disqualification and count out. Usually it is. But they're trying. I get what Tony's doing here. Like, we get criticized because every one of our matches, people say that we have no rules and no disqualification, no count out. So now I'm going to make the disqualification count out mean something. It's just like what he did with the time limit draw. Like, remember that? He implemented the time limit draw. That was a Jim Ross idea, where on AEW shows they actually have the finish of a time limit draw. So this is kind of one of their caveats of, we're going to give you something different than what we usually do.
Yeah, I mean, I do think maybe the reason they're doing that is to build a little bit of intrigue, because I think most fans watching this are going to think, well, after we just had this long Hangman story, they're not going to take the belt off of him the next month. And maybe they're thinking, hey, if we say it can change hands on a DQ, maybe that'll have some plausible deniability and get people talking about it. And here we are. Look at us.
Yeah. Hey, how about that? Yeah. In all reality, all they want is just a clean wrestling match. And they go, we're going to do that. So instead of just assuming that that's going to happen, we're going to tell everybody that it's no count out and no DQ. Yeah. So they're like dopes like us that are talking about it right now leading up to the match.
There's no disagreement there. And I think why is the MJF Hurt Syndicate storyline so short term when it was the best thing that AEW had going on its programming for the weeks on end? Why is it so short term? Why did it fizzle out?
Right before lunch in 8th grade, I had a class called chemistry.
Okay. I get it.
You really believe there's a lack of chemistry between MJF and Shelton Benjamin and Bobby Lashley and MVP?
I really believe that sometimes people don't get along in real life, and they just say, you know what, I'd rather not. I'm not saying they have creative control, but I do think that there are occasionally people who don't get along, and that's not unique to AEW. I mean, especially when we're in London, we've seen that those type of things have happened before. I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but I am just saying, there's been a lot of reports from Dave Meltzer, Sean Ross Sapp, and others who said that for whatever reason, the Hurt Syndicate group, whether that's MVP or that's Bobby Lashley or there's Shelton Benjamin, whatever it is, they have an issue with MJF. I don't pretend to know what that is. But if there is some sort of personality conflict, it leads me to believe that they're probably not going to be working together moving forward.
That's fine. And they didn't want to put over Jetstream. And they shouldn't have put over Jetstream. Jetstream's the tag team with Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight. And they shouldn't have put those guys over. But there were rumors that MVP did not want to put those guys over. And they shouldn't have put those guys over, quite frankly. But, I don't know. The Hurt Syndicate may be, tough to work with in AEW. Don't see them going to WWE. I won't make that prediction on the show. I don't think the Hurt Syndicate will ever be back in WWE.
No, I don't think so either. Ryan in the YouTube chat here, I guess this kind of blows his prediction because he says that he thinks the Hurt Syndicate interferes, attacks MJF, inadvertently giving him the title, and there is storylines for weeks. But if what we're hearing is true, where there's some real life drama there, obviously we know if it doesn't surprise me that MJF is in the mix and we're hearing that there's some personal real life drama when it comes to behind the scenes. So we'll have to wait and see.
Work it on television like they did for Flair and Bischoff in 1998. Get that on television.
Get it on TV. Hey, before
let's say this too, if that really is the way it goes, I mean, if they really do have a personal issue, I can't imagine they have a personal issue that's so severe that they wouldn't agree to punching MJF in the face.
Exactly.
Agree to that part.
Yeah.
A lot of people would line up for that. Before we let you go, their last pay-per-view was clearly a banger. It did very, very well. And it sounds like you're predicting this one will do the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think critically it will be well received. I don't think it'll do near the buys, but I don't think a lot of people even gathered this. But Jeff Jarrett is actually an old school booking mind, and I've heard from his show and certainly from Bruce's show that the summer is normally where you do your weakest business.
Mhm.
So you usually try to have a really strong story to kind of carry you through the summer. Well, a lot of the stories sort of came to a conclusion, and they had their climax last month in Texas. So they're trying to start new stories now, and getting that momentum going in the summer is usually a little different. So I'm anxious to see exactly how it shakes out this weekend as far as pay-per-view buys go. But I do think we all know that there's a WrestleMania hangover where interest sort of fades after the biggest show of the year. I got to think that's the same thing that AEW is going to experience here. So I think the buys will be down from last month, but critically, I think it'll be very, very well received.
Yeah.
Love it. Absolutely love it. Well, Conrad, again, thank you so much for joining us today. If people want more Conrad Thompson in their life, what are the socials? What have you got coming up? How can people get more Conrad in their life?
Man, I appreciate you saying that. Just check me out on Twitter at Hey It's Conrad, or you can check me out on IG at Hey It's Conrad Thompson. And thank you so much for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Of course. We absolutely
sir.
love it. Thank you, sir. Again, Conrad is one of those folks where when it comes to wrestling, I can listen to him tell me about the most boring history of wrestling, but the way he tells it, I just can't help but listen. I found myself, because I'm a big Eric Bischoff fan. Okay,
of course,
huge Eric Bischoff fan.
weeks.
I was at the Dome for Monday Nitro with a sign that said Eric Bischoff for president at one point in my life. Okay, that was real life. And listening to 83 Weeks again, there are a lot of times in WCW where times were boring. Times were very boring, but I can listen to them talk and it's absolutely fascinating. So the fact that we get to have them on is absolutely incredible. Brody, I have one question before we get out of here.
Sure.
Are you going to be watching AEW Forbidden Door?
Yes, I will be watching AEW Forbidden Door.
And yes, that is what I wanted the people to know, because you may have so many different strong opinions about it, but guess what? You're a fan and you're going to be checking it out, correct?
Yes, I'll be checking out. Of course, next week on Wrestling on the Spectrum, we'll be recapping, that's right, Forbidden Door, and we're going to be giving our reactions. And of course, we're going to preview WWE Clash in Paris. That is all next week on Wrestling on the Spectrum. A loaded show. A lot of professional wrestling is coming down the pike, folks. It's only going to get better.
Absolutely. And don't forget to search for us on all the socials, Wrestling on the Spectrum. DG, thank you very much for filling in for JC. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And of course, we will be here next week live at 11 a.m. You can tune in. You can make sure that you're getting involved by calling in and, of course, watching on the YouTube chat. Big thank you to everybody who participated today. We will talk to you next week on Wrestling on the Spectrum here on the Lou Information Station, live and on demand at louinfo.com.
You've seen this. It's brand new. Are you online?
Oh, hey. Oh, so you're new here.
All right, let's get cracking.
Okay, then maybe you should check out our website.
You're insane.
Well, you download songs illegally from the internet.
louinfo.com. louinfo.com. The Lou Information Station. 590 AM KLIS, Wood River, St. Louis.
Our origin story begins.
What are you so happy about? I'm on the pill. Aren't you two a bit old to worry about having more kids? Not her. Me. You lost me there, buddy. Steelman pills. Things weren't always looking up, if you catch my drift. So my doctor prescribed me a little something. Like Viagra? Yeah, but that's